record now. Here's my salsa. All right. Real quick intro. Welcome for those new to my channel. Welcome back. For those returning, this is stage 5. We got 5 and 6 of the dirt racing series, and this is it. Last 2 stages, and we are done. First stage is an ITT with 2 KOM and 1 sprint point up for offer. And then stage 6 has sprint point and 2 KOMs. Yeah. So it is gonna be rampage tonight. Anarchy, as some might say, because that is who we are racing for. And so we are on the mandated Tron bike, which I am very hesitant about because I have not ridden this bike in a really long time. I don't really like the Tron bike.
What did he just say?
I know it was a great all-arounder back when it first came out and everybody fought for it. But as the game progressed, it kind of fell out of favor in a way, I guess, like a better way of putting it. But now it is considered a Halo bike, which is the fastest of the TTT bikes, or TT bikes. And so I'm expecting to be able to do some great things with the sprints on this bike for this first stage. Once we get to stage 6, I'm switching over to my SL8 that I literally just upgraded.
Literally.
To level 2. So I'm really expecting great things out of that bike for stage 6. Scotland Smash. Today for stage 5, we're on the Classic, which is going to be a quick course. We have some time in between, so I've got to do my best to hustle, get to the line, and then get ready for stage 6. So I'm going to sign off for now, and I will catch you guys after the race.
All right, so as we get started, let's give a reminder to those who may or may not have been part of this series. So the dirt racing series comprised of 6 stages over the course of 5 weeks. Now, I didn't race the prologue, which would technically have been a 7th stage, but the prologue didn't actually count for any of the points or the GC. It's primarily there as just a race for the teams to ride together, get to know each other, personalities, specialties, and essentially get together, get coordinated. And so I unfortunately wasn't available for that, had other races at the moment scheduled, and so it just didn't happen. And so moving on to stage 1, which was the Petite Douleur, which is 2 laps around France, and was a points race, which I did grab some sprint points, which always helps for the team. And then moving on to stage 2, this stage was a little bit harder, a lot longer. It was on the out and back again course. Now on this one, we went up these Volcano KOM, which was my first real test in terms of being with the team, and I gotta say that one I did a lot better than what I imagined. Set a new PR on the Volcano KOM, came up over in about 7 and change minutes. And so stage 3 was the park perimeter loop, which again got some sprint points there, and especially after 3 laps was an absolute brutal race. Now, stage 4 was purely for the climbers on the Radio Rendezvous course, which took us through the Maya Itza climb, down to the bottom of the grade, all the way back up, and then finishing off on the radio tower, which again, I set PRs and I was excited about that, but that was an absolutely devastatingly exhausting race. finish it in just about 2.5 hours. Or sorry, hour and 22 minutes, almost 23 minutes. And so that leads us to stage 5, which is an individual time trial. As you see, we're all on the Tron bikes. And I gotta say, this was a lot harder than I expected. And the reason why it was harder is because I've not ridden with the Tron bike, like I mentioned earlier. And this really left me feeling like, I needed to kind of figure out where my legs were at. Now, after the 4 stages so far, the team that I'm on, the Dirty Watts Anarchy team, we are currently tied for third place with the Z-Sun Outlaws, and I am in tied for ninth place when it comes to the sprinting.
Big deal.
And so while this is an individual time trial, there are sprint points on offer. And so that was a big focus for me going into this. I wanted to make sure that I was able to get some sprint points in order to break this tie that we have with the Z-Sun Outlaws. So jumping ahead, made it through the climb just fine. Now that part of the climb was FAL, which I knew I wasn't going to be able to compete in, especially on an ITT. And so as we're making our way down the hill, I noticed that I have Eric Burke in front of me, who's an absolutely strong sprinter. So I knew that I wanted to be able to latch on to his wheel if I could. Now he is, I think, in second place for the sprint specialty. So I know that I'm going to have my work cut out for me. And again, because this is the ITT, there's no draft, but if I can match my speed with his, then I know I will be able to perform well on the sprint and be able to stay competitive. And so as we make our way down the hill, I will say that this is when you approach the sprint in this direction, it really is good to take advantage of the hill and not shave off a lot of speed. Now, I did lose a few kilometers per hour trying to get into the right gear, but ultimately still was able to launch my sprint and get to, I didn't get as high a power as I was hoping, but still managed to place well.
Oh, yeah, third. Oh my God, Miguel. Oh my God. Fourth now. Of course, Burke knocked me out.
Again, he is a fantastic sprinter and beat me not by much, by like 0.2 of a second, almost 0.3 of a second. So not that far ahead of me, but at the same time, he still got the better of me on this sprint. So just kind of continuing through, because this climb is now FTS points, which truthfully I knew I wasn't going to be competitive on being, 82-ish and a half kilograms. I am not an ultra light rider, as well as being on a bike that really isn't designed for climbing. I knew that was going to slow me down. And again, on this climb, that hurt a lot more than I thought was going to be the case. Especially since, like I said, I don't ride this bike truly ever, especially now that I'm trying to upgrade my SL8. Don't ride this bike, so it hurt a lot more climbing with this bike than I expected it to initially. And so as we make our way to the top, I've got EK in front of me, who's, not necessarily someone that's, impactful to my race, because he's not in any of the teams that are ahead of us. But the other rider from Z Sun, Cook, is someone who's in the team that's ahead of us. And so I wanted to make sure that I beat him to the line. You see him come through here. And as we make our way through the sprint, there's no points. for this part of the sprint, so I wasn't worried about pushing too hard. But I did want to keep EK in my sights, or sorry, not EK, Cook in my sights, because the goal for us getting into this, in order to break the third place tie, we needed to make sure that if there was a Z-Sun rider in front of us, we beat them to the line, no matter what line it was, whether it was a sprint, KOM, and so, or the finishing line. So I'm just giving it one more go to push as hard as I can, getting into the 4 or 5 watts per kilogram and just really pushing until I finally pass them. And I see that I've got enough momentum to coast across the line, which is what I do. And so that made me happy. Announced it to the team like, hey, I beat a Z-Sun rider. Hopefully that helps us. So as we get into the second race here, stage 6. Now, this is a points race where drafting is once again available. For whatever reason, I didn't accidentally in the break turned off my sauce. Um, but that's okay, because having ridden this course multiple times now for Zwift games, I felt like I knew it pretty well, at least well enough to kind of talk the guys through the different segments and where um, how we're approaching every aspect of this stage. And so I went as hard as I could on this stage, as you can see, pushing to the front often. And while I initially thought like, man, I really got to be careful, at this moment I felt good. I truly did feel good. And so as we approach the champion sprint here, this first round through the champion sprint is not um, offering any points. So as we were talking, we were kind of laughing about the people that did end up, really pushing hard on that sprint, because that ultimately is a waste of energy for them. You see, we got one guy way off the front pushing pretty hard and keeping the pace up, even though we're only, we're kind of averaging 200 watts ish on the low parts of the stage. We are approaching this, initial climb, which is the last, couple kilometers before the official finish line for this stage. And really, the group just stays together, because I think everybody is, exhausted. In the chat right before the stage officially started, everybody was talking about how exhausted they are, how tired they were, how much their legs hurt. And so for me, that gave me a little bit of an advantage, because not only do I know this course and I feel like I know it well, I'm on my now level 2 SL8 with the NV84 wheels, which I gotta say, these wheels have, I think, truly been part of why I've excelled in my abilities recently, because they're really good with aerodynamics, but also um, don't really take, you're not disadvantaged on the climb like the disc wheels are. And so as we approach the first, or not the first, but the only round through the Bray, you see everybody starts launching and really just getting their momentum up, getting going. I launch my sprint because this is an FTS segment, and so I wanted to perform as best I can. I'm not going full throttle, only peaking at around just under 900 watts, 800 and something watts. But considering I am blasting through this group and really just pushing as hard as I can. I got a teammate right up in front of me, and so I was focusing on him and making sure that if I can catch him, I will, in order to better myself on the FTS.
Ah,
And sure enough, I crossed the line
Jesus.
in 8th place, which I feel like was way better than what I imagined I
Ah,
could do.
we got eighth.
And so getting those extra points is definitely going to be helpful for the team. And so as we fast forward back through on our way back into Glasgow, again, at this point, I'm kind of pushing a little bit hard, because I see this group is kind of forming. We've got 1 or 2 seconds off the group behind us, and I was really hoping that me and this other dirt rider, Dan from Havoc, would catch up. And as we did, I felt like we could have pushed a little bit harder to keep going, but ultimately the group behind us catches up. And so I back off the pace and let myself get pulled back into the center of the group because I wanted to draft as much as possible. Because if we're not going to go on a breakaway, then we might as well stay together and, get any savings that we can. And so as we approach the entrance to the Glasgow, I thought it was going to get a lot harder here. I thought the pace was going to get much faster, but really it didn't. And so I kind of stayed, at the pace I was at, but I started to push forward as we started approaching the Clyde kicker, because again, this is a hard, steep climb. And because I was so close to the front, seeing myself, I kept looking and I was like, man, I'm in 20th, 15th place, kind of staying really close to the front. This being a first across the line point segment, I wanted to get whatever points I could. So I pushed as hard as I can, again, peaking into the 800 watts. I launched my aero boost, and to my surprise, I crossed the line in 6th place, which, boy, oh boy, was I absolutely excited about that. Because I didn't anticipate taking FAL points at all in this stage, but I was super excited about that. And so I let the team know I came across in 6th place, which again, are valuable points to add to our what I felt like was an increased margin between us and Z Sun. And so as we start getting back into formation here, approaching what I call the Zwifty maneuver launch pad, I start to pull into this front group again, push as hard as I can to stay in the group. But at the same time, once I get to the top, I start backing off the power a lot because the champion sprint is a FTS. And so I want to have the group as strung out in front of me as possible. So as I launch my sprint, I can blast through and get as much drafting as possible. As you see, I end up getting too far off the front. But as I pass through this guy, I ease off a bit and ultimately cross the line. I don't know what I got as far as FTS goes because it didn't show it, but I crossed the line in 1st place, so I figure I did pretty good on that sprint. And so now, as we approach the end, my legs are absolutely on fire. We start to hit the base of this climb, and I'm staying in the group and thinking like, all right, I can do this. It's, we're a couple, less than or right around a kilometer to the end. As long as I hold on to this group, I can, stay competitive and really just get myself across the finish line. But as we start to hit the steeper part of this climb, my legs are screaming out in agony and the group starts to pull away from me little by little. And I just decide that, you know what, I'm gonna, give myself a good dig these last 200 meters, but I'm not gonna try and kill myself because I got the points that I needed to get. I'm crossing the line in 30 something place, which I knew was going to be good for the team overall. And so I just left it at that. And that, my friends, is the end of Dirt Racing Series for me. Looking at my numbers, not too bad on, on all my numbers. Obviously, I've got, a better sprint. I've got a better, 5 minute, 20 minute. But at the end of the day, I raced the best race that I feel like I've had. Not only these two back-to-back races have been excellent, but my week leading up to this has been excellent. And so I am super excited about how I performed. And the team absolutely crushed it. We had, as you can see, um, we had Hatch in 4th place and a couple other guys scattered in between. As a team overall, while I'm excited to see where we place, and I will definitely update and put a post out there for our final standings. Since it's not going to be available for a few days, I will just leave it at that. Which, again, this was an absolutely epic event, and I hope when it comes around again, I hope to see you there.
Is that out? Oh my god. Fucking epic race. Absolutely epic race. And outside of that finish, whew, I made this course mine.
Your ego's writing checks your body can't cash.
I just needed to follow through with the finish. But other than that, my course. All right. Nothing else I can say, but I am exhausted, man. Absolutely exhausted. So I can tell you that my plan worked. And now on to TTT tomorrow to see if my new nutrition plan keeps working for me. So cheers, guys. I'm out. Whew. Guys, Miguel, from that thing you just watched, if you know where that reference is from, please leave it down in the comments below. One of my favorite channels. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the subscribe button, watch videos, playlists, whichever pop up. But thank you so much for joining me on this journey, and I hope to see you next time.